So we also hear in the book of Hebrews, we hear it from Jesus, but we also hear it from Hebrews, that the high priest enters once a year, and not without taking blood, but that he is supposed to use to offer for himself and for the sins that the people committed in ignorance. But when Christ appeared as high priest, he went into this heavenly Holy of Holies, not through the blood of goats and calves, but through his own blood. He entered the holy place not only as high priest, but also as perfect sacrifice. He entered the holy place once for all, and the language there is in comparison to the Yom Kippur that has to be reenacted every year. So once for all, having obtained eternal redemption. So we're hearing about this from the New Testament itself. Jesus is using this kind of language, that his life is a ransom for harabim, the many. We hear this as from the book of Hebrews, as Jesus the high priest, who is offering himself in the heavenly Holy of Holies, his own blood as a redemption once and for all. But we're hearing the New Testament, both Jesus and the author of Hebrews as well as elsewhere, 1 Peter chapter 2, referring to Jesus as a Yom Kippur sacrifice. We typically associate, because Jesus died at Passover, we typically associate him with the Passover lamb. This is in part correct, but it's not the full story. Jesus is also connecting his death, as are the other authors of the New Testament, connecting his death with this ritual of the Day of Atonement, and saying that this has now been completed for all time, this one-time sacrifice of Jesus, evidently because it's not spelled out for this way, but it's because his sacrifice is that perfect. His blood is that powerful to cleanse sin, covenantal breaches, things that get us out of relationship with God, that cause a breach in that relationship, that requires that reconciliation and restoration take place. His blood is capable of that. Hebrews goes on, "For Christ didn't enter a holy place made with hands, a mere copy of the true one, but into heaven itself." This is not something that's brand new with the author of Hebrews, but it shows up in the writings of Philo of Alexandria, a first century Jew who was not a follower of Jesus. He was a contemporary of Jesus, and he writes about this heavenly tabernacle that the earthly tabernacle is simply a shadow or a reflection of. Into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Nor was it that he should offer himself often, as the high priest enters the holy place year by year. By the way, an indication that the book of Hebrews comes prior to the destruction of the temple in AD 70. He uses the present tense, enters the holy place year by year, with blood, not his own. But now, once for all, at the consummation or the completion, the end of the ages, he has been manifest to us to put away sin. Notice again, it's no different than the Hebrew Bible. The purpose of the Day of Atonement, of this covering or atoning ritual or rite, was to deal with the sin problem so that we could be reunited with God our Father and reconciled to Him, with the problem of sin being removed from the table, no longer being between us and Him. Put away sin by the sacrifice Himself. So Christ also, having been offered once to bear, to carry away, to lift off. The reflection is that verb nasa, or even its synonym saval, that we found as far back as Isaiah chapter 53. Having been offered once to bear, to lift off, to carry away the sins of, and there again we get the harabim. It goes back to the Hebrew Bible, back to Isaiah 53. Jesus makes reference to it when he says to give his life a ransom for the many. There it is yet again. All the way to the end of the New Testament, we get these reflections, these ripples, these echoes or reminders of these sacred texts that we find in Vayikra, Leviticus, and also in Isaiah, Yeshayahu, chapter 53, most specifically.